The fork scrapes against porcelain. It's the only sound in the kitchen at 9:47 p.m., and it doesn't belong here. Calder Wynn stops mid-step in the corridor. His hand still rests on the marble counter, his Tom Ford suit jacket draped over one arm. The fundraiser ended early. The guests left satisfied. The house should be empty by now. But that sound, metal against ceramic, pulls him forward. He moves without announcing himself. Old instinct. Marine Corps reservists who worked his security detail used to say he walked like a man who'd spent years listening for threats in the dark. They weren't wrong. The kitchen lights are dim to almost nothing. Just the under-cabinet glow casting long shadows across floors that cost more than most people earn in a year. And there, behind the cabinet island, folded into the corner like something that learned to take up no space at all. A child. She sits with her knees pulled tight to her chest, a chipped plate balanced in her lap. Her school uniform is wrinkled. Her socks have a hole near the ankle. Her hands tremble as she lifts a fork to her mouth, eating cold pasta straight from the tray meant for disposal. She doesn't see him yet. Calder's jaw tightens. This house runs on order. Rules exist for a reason. Staff know the boundaries, no exceptions, no excuses. Discipline separates winners from everyone else who makes noise about fairness while accomplishing nothing. His first emotion isn't pity, it's anger. But hey, if you're wondering how a billionaire's estate hides a 9-year-old girl for months without anyone noticing, stick around. Because what happens next doesn't just shock him. It forces him to see who he's become. The girl's fork pauses midair. She turns her head slowly, sauce still clinging to the corner of her mouth. Their eyes meet, and Calder Wynn's voice cuts through the silence like a blade. What is she doing here? Have you ever been caught doing something you thought no one would see and realized too late that someone was watching the whole time? The fork hits the floor. Sauce splatters across tile that 3 people spent an hour polishing this morning. The girl scrambles to her feet too fast, the plate tipping sideways in her hands. She catches it before it falls, but barely. Her name is Amara. She's 9 years old. Too young to understand why hiding feels like breathing now. Too old to forget what hunger sounds like in the dark. I'm sorry. The words tumble out in a rush. I wasn't stealing. I promise. It was going in the trash. I saw them put it there. I'll clean it up right now. Her hands shake harder now. Not from hunger anymore. From fear. Calder doesn't move. He stands in the doorway with his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. The kind of face that built empires by refusing to flinch first. Where's your mother? Amara's breath catches. She knows what that question means. She's heard her mother explain it 100 times in whispered Spanish late at night when she thinks Amara's asleep. If he sees you, we lose everything. She's working. Upstairs, I think. I don't know. You don't know. Calder's voice is flat, clinical, the same tone he uses in boardrooms when someone tries to justify a bad quarter. How long have you been here? Amara's mouth opens, closes, opens again. She doesn't know how to answer that question without making it worse. Because the truth is, she's been here for months, hiding in the laundry room during lunch, sitting silent in the pantry during long shifts, learning how to fold herself small enough that no one notices, learning how to be invisible, until tonight. Calder reaches for his phone. Amara's stomach drops, and somewhere 3 floors above them, Rosa Delgado feels her entire world begin to collapse before anyone even says her name. What would you do if one mistake erased years of sacrifice in a single moment? Rosa is polishing brass fixtures in the master bathroom when her phone vibrates. One word on the screen. Kitchen. Her hands stop moving. The cloth falls into the sink. She doesn't need context, doesn't need explanation. That single word tells her everything. She's worked in this house for 3 years, 6 days a week, 12-hour shifts. She knows every rule, every boundary, every unspoken expectation that separates people who keep their jobs from people who disappear overnight, and she just broke the most important one. Rosa moves through the hallways fast but controlled. She doesn't run. Running draws attention. Running makes noise. She learned a long time ago how to move through spaces where she isn't supposed to exist. Her daughter learned from her. The kitchen comes into view. Calder stands near the island, arms still crossed. Amara stands 5 feet away, frozen, her eyes wide and wet, but no tears falling yet. Rosa's chest tightens. She steps into the room and stops exactly where staff are supposed to stop. 3 feet from the threshold. Not inside. Not presuming. Mr. Wynn. Her voice is steady, practiced. The voice of someone who's apologized for things that weren't her fault more times than she can count. I take full responsibility. Calder doesn't look at her yet. He's still staring at Amara like she's a problem he's calculating in real time. How long? Rosa swallows. 6 months. 6 months. He repeats it slowly, lets it sit in the air between them. You brought your child into my home without permission for 6 months. Yes. You hid her. You violated policy. You put my household at risk. Yes. Calder finally turns to face her, and Rosa knows before he says another word that her life just ended. How much would you risk to keep your child fed? Calder doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. This house runs on order, he says. Each word lands with the weight of a gavel. Rules exist for a reason, not because I enjoy enforcing them, because without them, systems collapse. Rosa nods. She doesn't argue, doesn't plead, not yet. Amara stays frozen near the counter, her small body rigid, her hands still clutching the plate like it's the only solid thing left in the world. Calder gestures toward her without looking. She's been eating leftovers. Yes. From the trash. Rosa's jaw tightens. From the disposal tray, before it goes to waste. That's not the point. I know. The point, Calder continues, his tone sharpening, is that you made a decision that affects my staff, my schedule, my security protocols, without asking. I couldn't ask. Rosa's voice cracks just slightly, just enough to remind both of them that she's human. You would have said no. You're right. I would have. Silence stretches between them, heavy, suffocating. Amara's breathing is the only sound now, short, shallow, like she's trying not to exist too loudly. Calder pulls his phone from his pocket. 3 taps. A call connects. Send Malik to the kitchen. Rosa closes her eyes. Malik runs security. Malik escorts people out. Malik makes sure problems leave quietly without making scenes that end up in headlines. Amara finally speaks. Her voice is so small it barely carries across the room. Please don't fire my mom. Calder's hand pauses over his phone. For the first time since he walked into this kitchen, something flickers across his face. Not sympathy, recognition. He looks at Amara, really looks at her, and sees the way her shoulders curl inward, the way her fingers grip the plate, the way she's learned to make herself invisible. The way he used to, but the moment passes. Wait outside, he tells Rosa. Both of you. After your shift ends, Malik will escort you out. When was the last time you watched someone lose everything and did nothing to stop it? Rosa doesn't cry, not in front of him, not in front of Amara, not in front of the other staff members who pass through the corridor and pretend not to notice what's happening. She packs her locker in silence. 2 uniforms, a pair of shoes, a photo of her late husband tucked into the front pocket of her bag. Amara sits on a crate near the service entrance, knees pulled to her chest again, watching her mother move like she's memorizing every motion. Mommy, she whispers. I'm sorry. Rosa doesn't stop packing. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Rosa's voice is firm now, final. The kind of tone that ends arguments before they start. You were hungry. You ate food that was going to waste. That's not wrong. Then why? Because the world doesn't care what's fair, Mija. It cares what's allowed. Amara's throat tightens. She doesn't understand the difference yet. Not fully, but she will. Malik appears at the end of the hallway. Tall, calm, professional. He doesn't enjoy this part of his job, but he does it without hesitation. Ready? He asks. Rosa zips her bag, nods, stands. Amara slides off the crate and takes her mother's hand. They walk toward the side exit, the one staff use, the one guests never see. But halfway down the corridor, Rosa stops. She turns back toward the kitchen, toward the house she cleaned for 3 years, toward the life she just lost. I should have asked, she says quietly. Not to Malik, not to Amara, to herself. I should have found another way. Malik doesn't respond. He's not paid to agree or disagree. He's paid to make sure people leave. The door closes behind them with a soft click. And inside the house, 3 floors above, Calder Wynn sits alone in his study, staring at a security monitor. On the screen, footage plays in reverse. A little girl, a chipped plate, a routine that's been happening every night for 6 months. And for the first time in years, Calder feels something he thought he'd eliminated. Doubt. What would you do if you realized you were the villain in someone else's story? The apartment is smaller than the pantry where Amara used to hide. 1 bedroom. A kitchen with a stove that clicks 3 times before the gas catches. A bathroom where the faucet drips no matter how tight you turn the handle. Rosa sits on the edge of the bed staring at her phone. No calls, no messages, no interview requests. 3 days have passed since Malik walked them out of the Wynn estate. 3 days of silence that feels louder than any argument. Amara lies curled on the couch, pretending to sleep. But Rosa knows better. She sees the way her daughter's shoulders tense every time a car door slams outside. The way she flinches when footsteps pass in the hallway. "Mommy," Amara whispers, "are we going to be okay?" Rosa doesn't answer right away. She's learned that silence is sometimes kinder than lies. "We'll figure it out," she finally says. But the math doesn't work. Rent is due in 11 days. The last paycheck covered half. Savings won't stretch past 2 weeks. Job applications sit unanswered in her inbox because every reference check leads back to the same place. The estate, the termination, the rules she broke. Rosa stands and moves to the window. The city stretches out below, lights in every direction, lives happening in buildings she'll never enter, jobs she'll never get. She presses her forehead against the glass and closes her eyes. This should be the end. 1 mistake, 1 hungry child, 1 man's need for order, and everything collapses. But 3 miles away, in a study lined with books no one reads and awards no one remembers, Calder Wynn sits in front of a computer screen. Security footage plays on loop. Amara, plate in hand, cleaning every surface, folding napkins, returning items exactly where they belong, not stealing, surviving. Calder's finger hovers over the keyboard. Then he opens a file he hasn't touched in 20 years, a file labeled Before. Have you ever made a decision that felt right until you saw the consequences? The footage rewinds again. Calder watches Amara crouch behind the cabinet island, her movements careful, rehearsed. She eats quickly but methodically, wipes her mouth with the back of her hand, stacks the plate in the sink, rinses it clean. Then she folds the dish towel twice and places it exactly where it was before. He pauses the video, zooms in. Her hands don't tremble here. Not yet. Not before she was caught. This is routine. Survival dressed up as discipline. Calder leans back in his chair. The leather creaks under his weight. His jaw tightens. He's seen this before. Not in his house. Not in someone else. In himself. The memory comes back sharp and uninvited. A kitchen table in South Memphis decades ago. His mother rationing mac and cheese across 3 days. His younger brother crying because hunger doesn't understand patience. And Calder, 12 years old, stealing bread from a corner store because asking didn't work and waiting didn't either. He got caught. The manager called the cops. His mother begged, promised it wouldn't happen again. Took extra shifts she didn't have energy for. Calder learned 2 things that day. 1, rules protect people who already have enough. 2, if you want to survive, you don't ask permission. You become the person who makes the rules. He spent 30 years building that version of himself, the version that doesn't flinch, doesn't apologize, doesn't let emotions override logic. But tonight, watching a 9-year-old girl eat cold pasta off a disposal tray, that version feels like a lie. Calder closes the laptop, opens his phone, scrolls through his contacts until he finds the name he needs. Keisha Monroe, Chief of Staff. He types quickly, "Need you in my office." 7 a.m., priority. He hits send. Then he opens another file. Personnel records, Rosa Delgado, employment history, immigration status, financial background. Everything he didn't bother looking at before he told Malik to escort her out. Calder reads until 3 a.m., and by sunrise he's made a decision that no one, including himself, saw coming. When was the last time you changed your mind about someone, and it changed everything? Rosa's phone rings at 6:47 a.m. Unknown number. She almost doesn't answer. Bill collectors don't call this early, but desperation does. She swipes to accept. Ms. Delgado. The voice is professional, clipped, familiar. This is Keisha Monroe, Mr. Wynn's chief of staff. Rosa's stomach drops. I'm calling to inform you that Mr. Wynn has requested a meeting. Today, 9 a.m. Silence stretches across the line. Rosa's hand tightens around the phone. A meeting. Correct. For what purpose? He didn't specify, but he was clear that your attendance is important. Rosa's mind races. Lawyers, lawsuits, non-disclosure agreements. Every worst-case scenario she's been imagining for 3 days suddenly feels real. Will I need representation? Keisha pauses. That's your choice. But I don't believe this is that kind of meeting. Then what kind is it? I think you should hear it from him. The call ends. Rosa stares at the phone for a full minute before setting it down. Amara sits up on the couch, rubbing her eyes. Who was that? No one. Rosa's voice is automatic, protective. Go brush your teeth. But 2 hours later, Rosa stands outside the same estate she was escorted out of 72 hours ago. Malik meets her at the side entrance. No cuffs, no hostility, just a nod. Follow me. They don't go to the kitchen. They don't go to the service wing. Malik leads her to the main house. Through hallways Rosa has cleaned but never walked through as anything other than invisible. They stop outside Calder's study. Malik knocks twice. Come in. The door opens. Calder sits behind a desk the size of Rosa's kitchen table. Keisha stands near the window, tablet in hand. And on the desk between them, a folder with Rosa's name printed across the front. Calder gestures to the chair across from him. Sit. Rosa doesn't move. I'd rather stand. Calder almost smiles. Fair enough. What would you do if the person who fired you called you back, but didn't say why? Calder slides the folder across the desk. Rosa doesn't touch it. Open it, he says. She hesitates, then reaches forward, flips it open. Inside, a contract, employment terms, salary figures that don't make sense. Facilities supervisor, Calder says, overseeing household operations, benefits included, flexible schedule. Rosa's eyes scan the page, then stop. The salary is triple what she made before. She looks up. I don't understand. It's a promotion. I was fired. You were. Calder leans back in his chair. I'm unfiring you. Rosa's jaw tightens. Why? It's not a question. It's a challenge. Calder doesn't look away. Because I watched the footage, all of it. 6 months of your daughter eating leftovers and cleaning up after herself like she was trying to earn the right to survive. He taps the desk once. Sharp, deliberate. I saw discipline. I saw responsibility. I saw someone who understood the value of order better than half my staff. Rosa's hands curl into fists at her sides. You saw a hungry child. I did. Silence. Keisha shifts near the window but says nothing. Calder stands, moves to the front of the desk so there's no barrier between them. I also saw myself. Rosa blinks. I grew up poor, Ms. Delgado. Not the kind people romanticize in speeches. The kind that makes you steal bread because asking doesn't work and waiting doesn't either. He pauses, lets the weight of that confession settle. I built this life by believing that rules matter more than circumstances. That discipline separates people who succeed from people who make excuses. His voice drops. But watching your daughter eat cold pasta off the floor reminded me of something I spent 30 years trying to forget. What's that? That sometimes the rules are wrong. Rosa stares at him, searching for the angle, the catch, the condition hidden in fine print. But Calder just slides a second document across the desk, a scholarship application. Amara's name already filled in at the top. How far would you go to fix a mistake, even if no one forced you to? Rosa takes the job, not because she trusts Calder, but because Amara deserves more than cold pasta and hiding. The kitchen policy changes within a week. Leftovers get boxed and distributed to staff nightly. No questions, no judgment. Amara enrolls in private school by September. She doesn't tell anyone who paid for it. Years pass. Rosa retires with a pension that lets her sleep without calculating rent in her head every night. Amara graduates top of her class, studies nutrition policy at Howard, builds a program that feeds thousands of children across 12 cities, quietly, without shame, without making them feel like charity cases. She never tells people where the idea started. And Calder? He funds the program, but removes his name from every plaque, every press release, every donor list. Because he learned something that night in the kitchen. Power doesn't prove itself by being right. It proves itself by admitting when it's wrong. At a private veterans leadership retreat 3 years later, Calder tells the story himself. In front of 200 people who've spent their lives following orders and enforcing rules. I saw a child eating leftovers, he says, and my first instinct wasn't to help her, it was to protect my authority. He pauses, looks directly at the audience. That scared me, because power doesn't corrupt, it reveals. The room stays silent. So I made a choice, not because I'm generous, but because I didn't like who I was becoming. Somewhere in the back row, a retired Marine nods. And in a community center in Baltimore, Amara Delgado hands a warm meal to a little girl who looks exactly like she did 10 years ago. Invisible, hungry, trying not to take up space. But tonight, someone sees her. What invisible rules are you enforcing right now? And who's paying the price?